Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome to the chat. I'm your host, Shawn Hill. Today, I'm here with Josue. He's from BX Writers. BX Writers. Ooh, that's a close one there. He's from BX Writers. Tell me a little about yourself, Josue. Let them know what you do out here in the Bronx community.
Definitely. First of all, thank you for having me, Shawn. And the rest of the crew, you already know the vibes. So my name is Josue Caceres. I'm a writer, creative from the South Bronx. I, been the brand manager of Bronx Natives for the past few years. And I want to say around 2018, I started a platform called BX Writers, where we highlighted, showcased writers, poets, creatives, not only in the Bronx, but all over the city.
Nice.
So we did that through many special projects. Like first we started highlighting them through social media. Then we started doing events like open mics, book clubs, workshops, publishing anthologies, books where we collected all of their writings, put it into one book. And just, many dope collaborations with the goal to make sure our people's voices is heard. So
nice.
That's what I'm doing right now.
That's amazing. So, you gotta give them the origin story, like every good superhero. Like, come on, man.
Definitely. So, I, shortly after I got out of college, around 2013, 2014, I started taking my own writing a bit more serious. I'm a poet, so I've always written. I used to make music when I was in high school. I used to write short stories. Used to write for films. But I wanted to start writing my own books. So I started writing them. My first book, Out of Place, came out 2016.
Nice.
And that's around the same time that Bronx Natives started picking up. It became established. So I was able to promote my book while participating in all the amazing things we were doing at Bronx Native. Giving back to the community, doing events, talking to the community, eventually opening our own shop. And then around 2018, I published my second book of poetry called Bronx Stories and Heartbreak. By that time, I had a larger audience. Bronx Native had a larger audience. We did a book release. It went amazing. That book really changed me as an artist because that's where I found my own voice. Growing up, I didn't really see many films or books that told my story, where I had people that looked like me, characters that looked like me, and people from my community. So I wanted to contribute to that. So I wrote my second book, talking about my experiences growing up in the Bronx as a kid coming from an immigrant family. And people connected with it. They loved it. They saw themselves in the book. They thanked me. And it was such a fulfilling feeling, but I wanted to do more. I felt like it wasn't enough just me writing my own books. So that's where BX Writers kind of started. The whole idea behind it was to, that same fulfillment that I had, I wanted to, make sure that the people in my community had that fulfillment, so the feeling you get when you're published or when you speak on a microphone and people acknowledge your work, So that's where BX Writers sort of started from, the idea.
That's a good one. That's a blockbuster there in the making. The future, man. So who's your favorite poet right now?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So
if it's yourself, it's fine. You will take some action. That's totally good.
I should hit him with that, right?
Yeah,
me.
Of course.
Nah. I definitely, there's a lot of people, things that influence me. A lot of writers that I love. One of them.
I'm going to split that question now. So, okay. Who's your inspirational poet, and who's your favorite poet right now? There we go. So we can start a little easier. You already know who inspires you. Boom, and then that should transition you into your favorite poet right now.
So like my favorite poet that inspires me is definitely Pablo Neruda. I don't know if you heard of him.
No.
Yeah, he's a Chilean poet. I believe he lived, I think he died like in the 60s, maybe 60s, 70s. But he was an activist in this country. There was a lot of issues with the government in this country in those times, and he was an activist and a poet. And what I loved about him was that he was able to like fight for his people while at the same time creating like these beautiful love poems. So I just love like the duality, you know, like I'm able, like that inspired me, like, you know, I'm able to do stuff in my community and stand up for what's right while also tapping into my creative side and writing these beautiful poems. But I'm also heavy into James Baldwin as well. He's not like really, yeah, he's you know, that's definitely one of my favorites as well. Heavily inspired by him and his speeches and everything he did.
I love his documentary, Not Your Negro.
Not Your Negro, amazing. His books are amazing.
Yeah.
But honestly, the people that I'm reading today are like the people that, you know, like the people from out here, the people from the community. Like right now, I'm working on the second anthology, and I'm reading a lot of work from people all over the Bronx. You know, telling their story, their upbringing, what they're dealing with now, things they went through during the pandemic, and it's so inspiring. And that's what I'm reading now. It's just you know, people that I come in contact with every day. They're sending me stuff, and that's what I'm reading.
Oh, that sounds amazing, man. Like right now, like one of my favorite poets is Charles Bukowski.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
my favorite. Yeah, my favorite poem from him is "Don't Try."
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's kept me like focused for a while as an artist.
That's another legend.
Yeah. Is it Amongst the People? Is another good one that he has where he talks about being amongst the crowd and blend in.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Let me ask you this: what led you to participate in this community here in the Bronx? Like, look, I mean, everybody, you know, just okay, I want to do something in the community, but you know, there's that moment where you just like, all right, I gotta do it. What was that for you?
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, you know, this is where I was born and raised. You know, this is the only place that I've ever called home. And growing up, I knew I was a creative. You know, I knew I was a writer. I knew I wanted to express myself, but I didn't have the resources. You know, and I feel like often in our schools and in our society and in our families, is not encouraged to pursue, you know, art and creativity. Is not looked at as something sustainable.
Right.
You know, so I knew growing up, like, there was something more that I wanted to do. Like, I was just distracted. Like, I wanted to write. I wanted to be creative, but that wasn't. I was told that's just a hobby. Like, that's not something you could pursue. So
TA job, right? That was
you know, like, you know, it's like go to school, get a job, get a 9 to 5. That's what you gotta do.
Oh, we can work in the job. You get a job. You get something working some packs and bags. I get it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like I've worked many jobs in my life. I've done many things, but it's just now I knew that's not what I wanted throughout my life. I knew, and I saw, you know, when we started Bronx Native and talking to the people in the community, I saw like their hunger and they, like, their eyes were glowing when they saw us. They're like, yo, like, this is something that's happening here in our borough. Like, we didn't think it was possible, you know. And you know, I knew I wanted to be part of something bigger. I knew I wanted to be somebody in the community that was able to provide those resources that weren't provided to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not saying like I'm like I'm like a rich dude that can just like dish out whatever jobs to people, but I know that I've been blessed to have many resources. I've been blessed to have gifts and talents that have made me accessible to a lot of these resources, and I want to share them with the people, you know. And that's why I wanted to be involved with this Bronx uprising, you know, within the arts and all this beautiful stuff that's going on. Is whenever I'm put in a position, I want to help the people that's around me. So
that actually leads into my next question. Like, what is going on right now? What is developing in the Bronx that you're excited about, that you would like people to know about? You know, like, I know you have your events, you have you're doing books, you're publishing, but something that is inspiring you, like, you know, not your own things, which is that's always inspiring. Waking up in the morning, looking at seeing those growing. But just something that's going on right now that you like, you know.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, you know, coming off of the pandemic. I see how many people just wanna connect with people and work and create. You know, a lot. I've spoken to so many people and they've told me that, you know, they started their business and their art during the pandemic. You know, and I think that's you know, a light that has come out of this, you know, whole COVID and pandemic, is that people want to work and they want to collaborate with others, you know, and I'm seeing that a lot when I do, you know, open mics and events and I meet people. They tell me, you know, like, I'm ready to do this. Like, I've been holding it off for so long, but I'm ready to create. And I think we're seeing something very special, and we're going to continue to see that.
Okay,
Sure.
that sounds great. Yeah, that's what I'm getting excited about too. Is just like it's kind of been a flood, right? It's like that whole year and some change that you had to stay in your house or just be worried. You know, everybody's just like there's an outpour of just like, oh, I just want to satisfy my soul, and that's a beautiful thing to see right now. So you're around a lot of poets, writers, creators. Is there anything that you would be like, you know, they should keep a watchful eye out on right now in this year or going into the future? Because, you know, sometimes we don't see things that are coming, but other people do. Is there anything like you would tell them to keep an eye out? Like, you know?
Definitely. I think it's important to be authentic, first of all, and to find your voice. You know, like I was saying earlier, I used to write in a voice that wasn't mine. You know, just
who would you relate it to, if you don't mind asking?
I just, you know, in school, I read a lot of, I read from a lot of authors that didn't look like me, you know, didn't tell my story. And so it wasn't necessarily that their work was bad, you know, it was just, it was all I knew. It was all I saw.
And so was it like, it didn't resonate or you felt that you needed something more? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It resonated to a certain extent, you know. Like I appreciated the stories, but it just like it didn't relate or connect with me, and oftentimes I didn't think that I can do that myself. You know, I didn't think I can be an author just because I didn't see anybody that looked like me, and so when I read a lot from these writers and authors, and I mimicked their style of writing, so I didn't really find my voice until later on. So that's what I encourage, you know, writers and poets to have a voice, be authentic, and also to know your worth. You know, that's something extremely important, you know, because nobody's gonna place that value on you. You know, they can try, but if you know your value, you know your worth, and you know what you deserve, whether it's, you know, money wise or credit wise or whatever it is, you need to determine that. You need to make that known. You know, whenever you walk into any artistic situation, you know, you have to know your worth. So those are definitely two things.
I definitely resonate with it, what you just said, because like I remember when I was a bit younger, I didn't know who I really was. Like I tried to fit into some category of things, and it just never worked out.
Right.
You know, you always have to fall back to where you're at. So, what would be like for you? What led you to your authentic self? Like when, what helped you get there? Like what actions did you take? Like maybe that might help with people out there that are, you know, they feel there's something there, but they don't know how to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the harder part, you know?
I think you have to do the research. You know, that's the only way. I remember, you know, like in the last few years, I put the time in, and I actually took the initiative to look up, you know, authors and writers and filmmakers that were telling stories that I understood and I could relate to. And you need to know your history, you know, you need to know where you come from, how all of this was built in order to be able to find your voice, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until, you know, like I said, I started reading James Baldwin and writers like Junot Diaz and all these, you know, writers from the community that I was able to say, okay, like my story matters. You know, what I have to tell is important, so I need to put that out there. You know, you know, the people in our community, we don't feel like our story like matters or deserves to be told or is interesting enough. And I tell people like, bro, like, you see where you're from, like this is where culture was born. Like we have all the stories like here, and we need to get them out there. So yeah, you just gotta do the research. You know, you gotta know about all of these artists, all of these writers, our history, and that's the only way you're gonna find your voice.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
So, most people, I know you talk about back in high school, you always wanted to be a writer. When was your like aha moment? Like, I know you like for me, I'm an artist, and you know I draw, I doodle. Or there was just that one day I just had that moment where it's like it's this or nothing, and also you know I gotta do this. So like, what was that for you? Like, when did you have that like take it serious moment?
That's funny. 'Cause I'm thinking of one particular moment. 'Cause like I said, I used to make music, right? So
You did not say that. You didn't say that right. You didn't even tell people that you made anything. Where can they find you? What beats you got? If I tap, if it,
no, that was
nothing?
many lifetimes ago, many years ago.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, in high school, I used to make music. I used to rap.
Okay.
Heavy into hip hop growing up, and I used to get a good reception. You know, I had a lot of friends that messed with me and stuff. But it wasn't until I had this experience where somebody close to me like did me wrong, you know. And I was young, and it was a hurtful experience. And I remember I wrote this poem. It was like really, it wasn't my first poem, but it was like my first like real poem that I was like writing and putting out there to the world. So I wrote this poem, and I filmed it myself. Like I had like a little camera with a tripod, and I sat in a chair, and I recorded it, and I edited it, and I put it up on YouTube. And the reception was crazy. Like everybody was like, people that I didn't even like knew, spoke to, like, were just hitting me up like, this is amazing. And that was when I knew, like, okay, like I'm onto something here, you know, like
Okay.
this is, you know, poetry is really a good way to get your message across to people. And I guess like I must have some talent for it. People are messing with it. So that's how I kind of started. Of course, eventually, you know, after my second book, I started BX Writers, and it's been a good journey, you know, and it's still going. So.
Yeah. You right now are hosting one of the best shows in the Bronx right now.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's pretty popping. I can't lie. Like I have people from other countries messaging me. Like, Where's that at? Where's that at? Is that Manhattan? No, it's a nice crowd, good scene, and you know people are loving it.
So,
Okay, so we're coming to the end of this lovely interview. I got one thing to ask. In one sentence, right? What would you like? What would you say to those people that try to get it done? Like just in one sentence, just something that gets these people going and you know encourages them to keep going.
Wow. One sentence.
Yeah.
I would like to say, it's maybe a little cliche, but do not give up. Oftentimes, you know, we don't know how close we are to accomplishing that goal. You know, I've been in situations where this is longer than a sentence, but I'm expanding on the sentence.
No, it's your words.
You know,
man.
oftentimes I've seen that like I've worked towards goals, and you know I've worked years and years, and then one day out of nowhere, like it's accomplished. And I'm like, wow, like, I didn't know how close I was. You know, so I encourage people, you know, whatever your passion is, just put the time in. Put the time in. But you got to put more time in than everyone else. You know, and don't give up on it. So.
Yeah, you're right. I totally understand that. Like I now have this like method where I double what I do. So if I think it's gonna take a month, it's gonna take 2 months.
Yeah.
So you don't miss out. It's
Definitely.
great. Sway, it's a pleasure having you here. How can these beautiful people find you?
You already know. You can find me on Instagram, Josue _Caceres. Also follow BX Writers on Instagram at BX Writers. Follow the Bronx Native on Instagram at the Bronx Native. And just tap in. We're doing a lot of special stuff in the community, a lot of events, a lot of projects, publishing, and if you're interested, we're here. So hit us up. Shawn, thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, thank you for showing up. That's the most important part. You did the heavy lifting, brother. I appreciate you. Guys, thank you for having us again. I hope you enjoyed. You guys have a beautiful day.